Mr. Arrojo Agudo, who is the UN Special Rapporteur on Human Rights to Safe Drinking Water and Sanitation. And 2 weeks ago, the Human Rights Council held a panel discussion on the human right to water and sanitation as a key preparatory step for the 2026 UN Water Conference. Could you share with us some of the main takeaways from that?
Thank you. Thank you very much. Well, Excellencies, dear friends, if we want to accelerate really the pace of achieving SDG 6, let me, taking the ideas that came from the panel, the high-level panel in Geneva, propose two reflections in these 4 minutes I have. The first is on the nature of the goals we are pursuing. The second, on the interests at stake among the various actors in order to identify the main partnerships to promote. Well, I often insist on reflecting on the nature of the objective of guaranteeing the human right to safe drinking water and sanitation. Look, the billions of people without guaranteed access to safe drinking water and sanitation are, for the most part, not properly thirsty people without water in their living environment, but extremely impoverished people who live alongside polluted rivers or uncontaminated aquifers, or whose waters are monopolized by powerful actors for their economic activities. Based on this diagnosis, as UN Special Rapporteur on the human right to safe drinking water and sanitation, I have insisted that these billions of impoverished and marginalized people do not offer a business opportunity for anyone, but rather pose a global democratic challenge that has, of course, concrete expressions in each country. Based on this diagnosis, in my opinion, it is a mistake to expect to focus progress in achieving SDG 6 based on expectations of profit and business. The challenges and objectives at stake call on states to assume their obligations to advance the fulfillment of the human rights to safe drinking water and sanitation in their respective countries, and to assume their shared responsibilities in multilateral institutions. These obligations require assigning the highest priority. I'm happy to hear about priorities right now by the ambassador. The highest priority to the fulfillment of human rights in the allocation of national capacities and budgets. Not even a lack of resources justifies the failure to implement this priority. I often recommend that governments follow the examples of women from millions of impoverished families without safe drinking water in their homes, women who, despite their being extremely poor, take on the priority of fetching water wherever necessary, assuming disproportionate work and risks. I hope, Your Excellencies, that the governments do not take offense at this recommendation. Based on this priority and an effective commitment from states and multilateral institutions, if we want to accelerate the pace of achieving SDG 6, we must look to those most interested in facing this challenge. The right holders who work daily and fight to access their rights, with women at the forefront. Right holders who, for claiming their rights, are often criminalized, persecuted, and repressed. Recognizing the movements and organization of indigenous peoples and water and river offenders who work for the human rights to safe drinking water and sanitation, I insist, with women at the forefront, recognizing them and reconsidering them as our main allies must be our priority when articulating priorities for partnership and cooperation. That is why I encourage governments to follow the example of these women and prioritize the progressive fulfillment of these human rights in the budgets at their disposal. That's why, in my opinion, the keys to progressing towards achieving SDG 6 are 3 main questions. First, adopting a human right-based approach with the corresponding priorities and management criteria. Second, focusing efforts on education for a new water culture. By the way, based on the wisdom of ancestral worldviews, from my point of view. And third, promoting dialogue, recognition, and collaboration with right holders who work and fight for their rights. I insist once again, with women at the forefront in most cases. Thank you very much.